Hello and welcome back to IT145 Adventures in Java at Southern New Hampshire University. As always, I'm your host, Matt Heuser. And this announcement, I want to dive more into week one. I still think week one can be a little confusing and too much. And so I want to unpack it a little bit for you. Then I'll talk about where the course is going through the whole semester, maybe give you a couple of hints to sort of help you understand things before you get to them. And if we can do that, I think I'd be pretty happy with today. So here we have our Module 1 page. Last time I talked about the discussion boards a little bit. I want to talk about Zybooks. So Zybooks is an interactive tool that is a combination of textbook and Quizlet, where you will read and then answer some questions. So let's just go through the first one if you haven't done this before. We have a basic computer program. And you'll be very tempted, as I was tempted when I first recorded this video, to just jump to question, answer, as I mentioned before. And you can miss some things. So when we get here, I don't have time to read all of it, but you will carefully review the document. Computer programs are abundant in many people's lives today. A computer program is input, process, and output. So, and I think of it as input, transformation, output. And that's not, like, there's many more steps in between when we get to what we call the event-driven paradigm, where the user can mouse over and click around wherever they want and then click the back button, and it makes things a lot harder. But our programs today are to start with, they're going to be type in some numbers, do some calculations, print out some answers. Type in some words, do some calculations, print out some answers. It's the simplest form of computer programs, which were started to calculate rocket trajectories, missile trajectories during the Second World War. So before that, they printed images on looms. We don't really have time to get into all that right now. Right now, we're looking at a computer program, simple computer program. This is pseudocode. I talked about pseudocode before. So x equals get next input. We could have squished get next input into one word. We could lowercase the g. We could forget the semicolon. We've never defined x. Is x integer? Is x a float? Is x a double? We don't really care. This is pseudocode. Very simple. Get next input twice. And we don't even really care about, are they typing and hitting enter and then typing in the next one? Are they putting them both in the same line? At this point, we don't know. We don't care. Doesn't matter. Add the two numbers together, print out the output. Very simple. Open to interpretation, but most humans can figure out what this is doing. And then we've got the screen with the input and the output. So it says the instructions get input, process, and put the output. First, we assign x, and then we get the y, and then we add them together. And then it's going to say, how many instructions? How many instructions? That's the question. What's an instruction? What are you talking about? It says the computer program's instructions get, but you may need supplement material. You may need to contact me. If you get stuck, you can email me. I'll respond within 24 hours is the expectation. If it's more than that, it's probably Christmas or something. And if we got response, and we're just not getting there, that's when we go to text or some other medium. We'll get you what you need to figure this out. But the simple, obvious, straightforward explanation is the correct one. A single line here is an instruction. Get the next input, add them together, get the output. 1, 2, 3, 4. We type in 4, we click check, it says correct. And we're going to work through 33, 34 pages of these. So it may take a while. I don't think it's going to be a slog, but I do think it's going to be consistent, diligent. It's going to take some consistent, diligent work to work through all of these problems till you get to the labs. I think there's 3 labs in Module 1.3, and then there's 4 more in Module 1.4. And what we'll find is when you start out, these run inside your browser. They run inside of Chrome or Firefox, whatever you're using. And you have here code. This is working Java code, which is kind of amazing if you've been around for a while. That we actually have, you can write your code, and you've got syntax highlighting. So your declarations are blue, and your system terminology is green. It's all kind of amazing that works. And you've got a program that's supposed to add two numbers together. That's what this is. A couple things. So the first few things we're going to build are going to be, one class is the whole program, and there's a method called main, and the main method is the do the things method. Eventually, we're going to have multiple classes that interact with each other, but somewhere deep down, there's going to be a main method. You might have heard that as the main routine. It's the primary method of the computer program. And what this is supposed to do is it's supposed to take a number in from the screen and square it. That means multiply it by itself. So if you have a square that is 5 by 5, that square is going to be 25 square units. This is multiplied by itself to find the area of a square. Well, this just adds them together. So if we run the program, if we type in 10 and we run the program, it'll come up with 20. And if we submit that for grading, it's the program we're given does this. 2 works, but other numbers don't, because 2 plus 2 is 4, is 2 times 2, but 12 and -5 are not. So we need to change this plus to multiply. We flip back over to develop mode. We run that program, and 10 becomes 100. We flip to submit mode, and we submit it for grading. So if you watch the video, I just gave you 3 out of 3. I just gave you 2 answers out of 100 on 100, 200, 300 on the first, on 1-3. So I'm kind of okay with that. But you'll find that the first few assignments are of that nature. Find the line that has the error in it and fix it. There's one that is just print out a message 3 times. And one thing to note, in Java, there's a difference between print and println. Println will include the enter, the carriage return, to go to the next line. So the next thing begins on the next line. If you don't have that println, it'll all go on the same line. And if the code is checking for that enter, you'll get an error, failure. You have to figure out what's different, what's wrong. So I did, what's this? 34 of them, and then we go to the bottom. We're always going to go to the bottom and click for next. And there's 135, which is another computer program. 136, which is another computer program. This is a print things assignment. And then we get to 137. We get to 137, it says it's part of assignment 1-4. So we've completed all of 1-3. If it starts with 1, it's a week 1 assignment, 1-4. And these were all due Sunday at midnight, I believe. And we're going to keep going. There's a bunch of labs. There's several labs here that are all part of 1-4. One dash 4, 2. And then we go to, we're in 2-1. Rest easy. You've completed 1-4. You've completed 1-3. Those were the week 1 assignments. Couple other things you have to know for week 1. We talked about Lucid. It's a lucid.app. You're going to have to design a flowchart in week 1. Lucid is a flowchart tool. It's online. It's free. I created an account. I didn't give them any money. I just used my email address to sign up. So once you've done that, you come to this main screen. And I can do new lucid chart from template. See, I moused over from template. That's important because I want a flowchart. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to use the flowchart template. And it's going to create a document. I can only have 3 documents at a time. That's okay. And it creates this for me. So I've got decisions, I have processes. I can Control C, Control V, and I can paste it. And let's do input number multiply by self. Actually, this should be a decision. So it could be, is number good? So if they just hit enter, the number's no good. And if the answer is no, then we'll do error message. And another arrow. We'll do an arrow. Nope, wrong way, arrow. Back to input number. And then number equals number times 2 times number, because this is a squaring app, right? And then we don't want another. Say output result is plus number. Very, very simple flowchart. Trivial. And the one you're going to make isn't going to have to be much different. You should be able to export it or screen capture it or get it to me. I believe the assignment for week 1 is the flowchart and pseudocode for the project 1. So that's week 1. You're going to want to review project 1. I would suggest reviewing all the modules just to get a feel for them. And once you're there, you'll probably have figured out a few things. So the way the class is gonna progress is we're gonna do Zybooks. There's gonna be lab assignments. There's gonna be something called automatic graded or quick grade or something like that, where it's just a blank Java screen and you type your whole assignment in it, and you can get your whole assignment graded, and then you turn it in as one text file. And then eventually you're going to get and start using Eclipse to edit Java files. They're going to give you 99% of it, and then they're going to give you a little bit less, and that's the end of the semester. So let's end by showing you a little bit of Eclipse so that you know where we're headed. Eclipse is a desktop application. I've got it right here. And if I want to create a Java project, I just create a Java project. I'll call it Hello World 2 because I've made a bunch of Hello World program apps in preparation for this. And I finish. There's Hello World 2. There's source code. There's a module. There's nothing in it. It's not going to do anything yet. So we're going to have to create a new class. And we'll be talking more about objects and classes. It's gonna come up in the material several times. Why don't we call it hello name? And why can't I? Hello name. Public static main. So the program doesn't do anything yet, so we need a main routine. And sure, generate comments. Why can't I finish that? Hello name 2. Okay. Why can't I finish? Package name must be specified for the module. Oh, it's Hello World too, because it's part of. No, that's the module. We'll just call it Hello World. My goodness, you see how I stepped on that? But now we have hello name 2 and some code. So let's look at my example from week 1. That was called package hello name and class hello world. We'll go back to Eclipse. And we'll put it in the same structure I already created. So you have hello world, and the class is hello name 2. So we don't need any of that. Did I spell something wrong? Yep, I'm missing the capital H. Now I've taken the code I wrote in class and I put it into the project package and module that Eclipse made for me. I'm not seeing any. That's underlined. Why is that underlined? Resource scan is never closed. Doesn't really matter. So I mentioned I didn't put in exception handling and try catch block. If something goes wrong with the keyboard, if you unplug the keyboard, this will probably have an error. But I'm not too worried about it right now. I just want to run this thing. Save it. Type in your full name. You see down here? That's the input for the program. So I'll type in Matthew R. Heuser. That's my full name. And it says, hello, Matthew R. Heuser. And that's it. Program ran. We could stick this in a while loop and we could have it loop forever, or have it loop 10 times. Ask you how many times it wants to loop. But this is Eclipse. Now, if you're overwhelmed, you can full size this whole thing and you can watch it again and again and again while you do the work. We're not going to use Eclipse this week. I don't think we use Eclipse in week 2. It comes later, but I wanted to get you a feel for what we're doing, because you want to be able to actually run computer programs by the time this class is done. You don't want to just be able to sort of run them in theory inside a browser, inside of a sandbox. So I think that's enough. I hope it isn't too much. And I'll be here if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye. I'm going to let the errors stay because I want you to see that I make errors. It isn't all magical polished. And I reviewed this a couple times before I recorded it. So people make errors. You're going to struggle, and that's okay. Final thing. I know I said goodbye, but final thing. Read the whole week before you dive into the assignments. That week overview, WEEK, the overview of what you're going to do in the module. Review that. One of the things that will happen later in the semester is they'll say, solve the exercise in this little sandbox. And then below that, they'll tell you what the exercise is. So you gotta scroll down and read. Like, I think next week there's one that's to create a dog class. You're like, what's the dog class? What am I supposed to do? What are the names of the variables? What? And if you scroll down and click the next link, there is a UML diagram and a very detailed description of what the class should be called, what the variables are called, what the methods are, what the getters and setters are called, everything you need, but it's actually below the part where you do auto grading. So make sure you read the whole. If you get stuck, read the whole module, because the answers might be below where you'd hope. And now I think that's enough for week 1. If you have any questions, email me or bring them up in general discussion. I'll try to get ahead of things. So If you want to work ahead, that's okay. We'll see how far ahead I can get on the announcements, because I don't want it to be ridiculous. I don't want to be doing an announcement on week 6 during week 2, because people will feel confused. But with that, I will let you go. Thanks, everybody. Happy coding.